Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 4 of The Hot or Not, the hottest content on the internet. How you doing, brother?
Can I just say that when you said the hottest content on the internet, you didn't win me over. It's spicier than that. It's spicier than that. It's Friday.
People already know. People already know. It's the hottest content on the internet. It was when I started this whole trend, a couple of years ago. And now it's in podcast format. And I'm going to start off with my hots, as I usually do. I was going to change format this week, and I thought, no, let's just go through the 3 hots and then discover the 3 nots. Now, the first one is Burberry's new campaign.
Okay.
London in Love. I saw this on LinkedIn this week.
Because they could use the help.
Well, exactly. So Burberry rebranded last year.
Again.
And seemed to sort of launch it with a bunch of sort of celebrity endorsements, and imagery. Was everywhere I traveled. Seemed to be in every airport, this sort of imagery. And it just didn't go down very well. And I think what this does so well is
it actually passed me by, which says something about
it, really?
Doesn't it? Yeah.
No, it didn't. I mean, it was in the news that the rebrand didn't go as well as the company had hoped. To be fair, I quite liked the imagery. I quite liked what they were doing. It sort of seemed like an elevated, chic version of street culture, which I actually thought from an artistic direction point of view was kind of interesting, but it didn't go down very well. What I love
You've got a view on why? So I can give you a bit of a guess from my opinion. I'd love to hear what you think.
Have I got a view on why? Well, let me get into why I think this campaign is better. Why I think this has gone quite a long way for me to sort of slightly catching up, or sort of why this has gone about looking to boost the image since last year's sort of slightly drop in revenue on the FTSE 100 is I feel like it's better at world building. And it's, if you haven't seen it, the campaign is sort of centered around this video with a bunch of celebrities in there. We talked last week about how celebrity sort of partnerships aren't working as well, but they've got sort of Naomi Campbell, Kate Winslet, sort of British celebrities in there. And they're sort of celebrating London, but, London in the rain. And it's sort of, a very romantic view of London, sort of being sort of quite authentic about what London's about. It's really it's sort of taking the best tropes from rom-coms. And, what do I think? Why do I like this? I think ultimately it's a better world-building brand exercise than what they did last year. Because it's video, because they seem to have thought more about the narrative, because it's sort of a little bit of a celebration about what makes London London. It sort of feels like the brand is more enriched in this narrative, in the story.
Define world building for me.
Well, okay, so you're building more of a sort of environment for the brand to exist in. If you've got imageries,
the rain.
Well, a sense of place.
Naomi Campbell and Kate Winslet feels like odd choices, don't they? Feel a bit sort of. You were talking about a young chic generation, and that feels like not.
Yeah, I would say they've sort of stepped away. The fact they've gone for more rom-coms, it's maybe, if you were sort of talk about demographically, maybe a little bit of an older generation. Yeah. When you're talking about world building, especially when it comes to brands, you're talking about brands sort of creating a richer environment on which their brand sort of exists. Yeah. More sort of touch points for them to pick up on. It's not just an image that shows you a brand. It's a sort of a more sense of the world that brand is looking to communicate. Sort of more touch points, more narratives. And I really liked it, actually. I thought it communicated much more of a sense of who Burberry were, what their place is in the world. And I just thought, actually, as a video as well, what's interesting is it feels very sort of socially led, I would say, from a thematic point of view, but it was very high production value. And often what we talk about here is the sort of the formats and, this slight tension, I suppose, between production value and what works on social. Very high production value. I thought it was really, really nice.
Well, it's sort of, that almost confirms where I was going with it. Why did Burberry need to rebrand? That's what feels tough about this. And I sort of feel sorry for Burberry. A few times they've got caught up in the wrong image, right? They were the number one fake brand for ages. It became the chav hat for a while, and it just kept undermining what was supposed to be a heritage British brand. And that's why I'm kind of, I suppose to me, I know it's on one level a bit of an odd parallel, but this is a little bit of the issue you have with the big Jaguar thing. If you have a heritage as strong as that, don't try and rip it up and throw it out. And then what's interesting is what you seem to have picked up on there almost does feel a bit like the older guard. That's not in any way a criticism of them. Both really powerful, impressive people, and they've clearly created something. And that almost is leaning back into the good part of Burberry for me.
I suppose I wouldn't go as far to delineate it as much as that. There's definitely a sort of a more established rom-com, sort of leaning into that. Kate Winslet obviously being sort of our generation, I understand, but I would still say it sort of appeals. There's still elements of a new, younger vibe to it. I just think it's sort of quite.
Yes, but isn't that kind of part of the point of those? Is that they appeal to everyone? Rom-com is a fairly universal. Whichever way you experience life, you hope that there's love in it, and so you're picking up on that theme, which is I don't know. I mean, to me, it just feels like a better approach. Anyway.
Well, when you say appealing to everyone, we're going to get into that in a little bit later, or not. So I'm going to jump to the next one, which it's in-person events. Now, we've spoken about this before, but I wanted this to sort of be a chaser to when we were talking about physical post, about sort of mail delivery, sort of having that sort of.
I know the world is dying to know how you're going to hand out business cards. More than 2 people have asked me that.
So I've decided it's going to be a mix of sort of choreographed dance and magic.
Oh, okay.
In some way.
It was me thinking you were just going to get an engraved card holder.
No. You have to use your body. Always use your body to tell the story.
Anyway,
I think I'm just about to go to 2 big events. Yes, I am.
And this came up on your agenda.
I'm not using this as a plug to come meet me at events at all.
Seems unbelievable to me that coincidence.
I'm going to ETH Denver, and then I'm going to PDAC in Toronto just after that beginning of March. So I just wanted to say what's hot at the moment. I cannot help but think, you and I are obviously marketing a digital space, and there's, of course, nobody can deny that is obviously the hot topic and incredibly useful to brands, projects, corporate, consumer, whatever it might be. But I think the physical event, for me, certainly, I don't think it's ever gone away, but I think people were talking about last year and the year before a sort of post-pandemic peak of events. Now everyone's back at events. I think this year is going to be really, really big for events if they can look to change the format up, as we have discussed before. But I do think in-person events as a whole are going to be really big. And if you are at ETH Denver or at PDAC in Toronto, come say hello. I'm great fun.
And don't miss this interpretive dance business card maneuver. So
yeah, we'll see.
Well, I think that's interesting because some of the other trends and news you're seeing at the moment about going back to the office, it does feel like BAU is being resumed, business as usual.
Yeah,
there's a lot to say that we had fallen into a rhythm for a good reason, and COVID, as you say, spiced it up. Some great things came of it, but also. Yeah. Okay.
I think.
I hope you have a great time without me.
This next one, actually. So this, when you're talking about
still in HOTS, yes, we are.
Yeah, we're still in hot. But actually, I want to go back to what you said about appealing to everyone.
Okay.
I saw a really, really interesting post on X from an account called Culture Critic, and it's talking about how every aspect of life seems to be stripped. Colors seeming to be stripped out of every aspect of life. Now, I'm not going to go into it too deeply. Culture Critic on X talks about, actually, this goes back to it being Plato. And actually, the old,
My God. I don't think I've had enough
the
coffee.
Old philosophers used to say that actually the purest form of communication is in form, and that, actually the higher workings of the mind are about form, and color is actually a distraction from that. So
it's about moving your body.
Huh?
Form.
Yeah, exactly. Let your body tell that story. I'm trying to sort of surmise this all in one, but basically how you would say is actually what's happened is that color theory has been homogenized to the point that really it's just very black and white. You see in the sort of cars and color of cars, and as it's gone along, basically 30 years ago, there used to be much more purchase and varieties of colors in cars. Now it's really black and white. You're seeing in sort of film grading, everything's being desaturated, etc. And essentially what's happening, and you'll see obviously in sort of brands like Apple that become sort of very sort of mono, duochrome, whatever you would want to call it. So what they're saying is actually to appeal to a broader market as possible, everything's become very minimalist, very much about form, and sort of independent shops that aren't that interested in that. They're usually, or independent retailers or brands, they're usually the ones that play around with color. Now, what I'm saying is actually, if you are looking to make a point of difference, and I think as there's more and more noise, certainly online and between different verticals, then actually you're starting to see a bit of a fight back. You're starting to see almost like a Baroque sort of influence into some brands, sort of creating really beautiful forms, but combining that with broad colors. And that seems to be on the way back in, certainly for getting noticed in the crowd and getting your communication across. So I wanted to put that as part of my hot this week.
Well, that's really interesting. I can only really speak to the car analogy you gave there, but I
Okay.
can speak to that. If you look at the range of colours offered, it's often criticised now. You want to buy a new Land Rover, you can have it in like silver black. They don't even allow you to have green as a standard.
Do they
colour.
not?
Or they didn't.
Your favourite
which
colour?
model? Yeah.
Your favorite color, but bad luck for cars. Anyway.
Well, hasn't been for me. I'll take it. But the point here was why? Why? Because most new cars are leased, not bought, and they are worried about getting the cars back and not being able to sell them.
Okay.
So the whole thing, your point here is, what's the widest possible appeal of silver car? Doesn't look too dirty when it is dirty. It just it looks generally okay on those things.
Appealing to a bigger
On the other hand, the fight back definitely has begun in cars.
Okay.
A friend of mine actually is engaged to the chap. Congratulations, Christina, who started Make Green Great Again, which is the Instagram post all about green cars. And what you will now see is that certain cars that are really well spec'd, and I'm defining that purely by colour. So they've gone for like a bold green and then an interior with a check and things like that, can achieve a premium. The danger, of course, is that's in trend at the moment.
I was going to say a green car with checked interior.
Oh, it's gorgeous, yeah. But anyway, but of course it is cyclical. So the point, I'm with you. Basically, bring colour back, but also be aware that fashions move, and now they're talking about make purple great again, and we're all moving to the next shift. But fundamentally, you definitely see that the cars that are going to be mass printed and produced stay very boring colours, and then where you get a bit more fun. I mean, look, supercars all tend to be really big, bright, bold colours.
Yeah, well, they are the perfect sort of combination of form and colour. So I'm definitely seeing in brand visuals and communication at the moment a little bit of a return to sort of doing some nice, overwhelming,
love it,
colour. Anyway, we'll go on to knots.
If you'd like an example of that, go and check out our LinkedIn pages right now.
Oh yeah, well this also
the great pink debate this week.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that. But yeah,
very pink,
very pink. Pink being my favourite colour.
I think we might be turning him off his own favourite colour. We're using it so much now.
Exactly. Okay, my not topics. Libra coin. This has been really huge. I didn't really want to talk about meme coins again, but this has been so huge. And I suppose I'm slightly.
This is what happens when Jack doesn't come for our crypto podcast.
Yeah, I am slightly departing from our usual marketing sort of topics here. But Libra coin was a meme coin officially launched by the Argentinian government, by Javier Milei. I think that's how you pronounce it.
That's how we do it.
And within
brave of you to try.
Yeah. So he put it out on X that Argentina, much like Trump and Melania, were releasing a meme coin, except it wasn't attached to him; it was attached to Argentina. And within 45 minutes, that had gone to 4.1 or 4.5 billion. The coin.
Wow.
4.5 billion. However, it then quickly plummeted to below $1 within hours. Yeah. And basically now it's in a huge scandal that basically the official meme coin of Argentina got rug pulled. And to be fair, I think what I wanted to go into is the sort of wider scope of this. So he has come out and sort of apologized for this. There has been a huge scandal about this. People have lost shitloads of money. I think the person who made the most was about 9 million, but there were thousands of people that lost 5-6 figures on this, right? And what happened the next day? The Argentinian stock market opened up and the index was down 6%. So what you're finding actually is, we are obviously believers in Web3. You and I do own crypto. We have traded in meme coins, but now what you're seeing is, there seems to be a crossroads now with meme coins that, they are deeply affecting the actual country's economy. There seem to be these constant rug pulls and scandals. I know that when I've talked about this on the pod before, when I'm going out on sort of, when I'm looking at meme coins, it just seems that the market's completely wild. But I think this goes so much further. This is a hideous influence.
This is absolutely awful for crypto.
Yes, exactly.
If a government can exploit crypto that effortlessly, it was bad enough when Haley, what's her name, Hawk Tour, did the rug pull, and the reason I say that's bad is just that it gets to the wider zeitgeist.
Yeah,
but this trips a little bit into us talking about meme coins with Jack on Pick of the Week, because my point there is that you can't. It's okay for an educated audience who know they're gambling to go in and gamble. But when a government releases a coin, you just expect this is not a meme coin phenomenon, right? You would, and the problem here is for the uneducated non-crypto person coming in thinking, okay, and Argentina have done other things with Bitcoin in the past.
Yeah, when in their head it's backed by a country,
and so it's just so damning for the lack of regulation in crypto. It's everything that is wrong and that stops us getting the mass adoption that the industry deserves. That keeps happening, and that would be my argument, and that I was making to Jack's point. I understand that if you're smart and engaged and want the freedom and the responsibility as somebody like Jack does, it's an amazing opportunity. But most people don't have that kind of and this was I mean, it was, by the way, terrible for crypto.
Yeah,
crypto across the board tanked on this.
Yeah, Solana,
so did
Solana,
as you say, their economy, which is a massive vote with the feet of going, right? If that's how you're going to behave, and it's particularly without going into the politics because I don't know it in enough detail, but kind of part of the point of him being there was to try and root out corruption, wasn't it? And the whole thing just feels silly.
And overall,
it's a PR disaster of a magnitude you can't really imagine.
He's got inflation down. Overall, his presidency is sort of being seen as a success so far.
And this could wipe it out, really. So. From a reputational perspective, you just think, what? Sorry, what?
I think the only thing I can't work out is they seem to have gone through a third party, the same guy who I think released a Barstool coin. I'm not sure, but the whole thing seems very peculiar.
Yeah.
Anyway, next one. This one you might have a little bit more, maybe be a bit close to, is yesterday it was announced that Amazon is now taking over James Bond from the Broccoli family. And look, I'm putting this as not because I'm fearful of it. This might actually work out, but I think
no fucking
already
way.
Jeff Bezos coming on to X and saying, who would you choose your next Bond? There, I think
it's the ultimate man wet dream, grow up to be James Bond. Jeff Bezos is now finally rich enough that he can buy James Bond. You see this all the time, guys who pay too much money. Aston did a re-release of the James Bond edition DB5 with fake rockets and stuff, and I can't remember how much it was now. It was like £1 million. They sold out instantly, just so little boys could pretend to be James Bond. This is little boys pretend to be James Bond gone massive. I think the Broccoli family don't get enough credit for how closely they guarded that brand. That has got to be one of the hardest things ever. Every brand throwing every incentive at you to let it become more sensationalized, cheaper. And I'm sorry, but I just cannot see a world in which Amazon don't or give in to that. They're going to give in to the commercial side.
Yeah, I think there's a certain, commercial.
I hope they don't.
Usually on the positive side, I would always be leaning to commercialization of certain IP can be done well.
Definitely.
This particular IP, I think, sort of needed. There's been a certain joy throughout the years. Maybe not the Timothy Dalton era. That's where I went. There's been a certain joy throughout the era of actually the stewardship sort of being quite restrained in how they deal with this IP,
and they still let it evolve. The more modern Bonds are very different movies. They let it.
You could say the most recent Bond, the Daniel Craig version of the Bond, is the most successful. Whether you think he is the best Bond, I think commercially and actually,
but even they got on some really amazing directors that do interesting things at the story. They made them more epic, and that's not an easy evolution, but they protected some of the fundamentals. And
I think I'm not seeing. I just don't think it's going to go right way. Obviously, the biggest parallel people could think about Star Wars, another franchise. Is it a franchise? Yeah, it's a franchise close to my heart.
Very close to your heart.
Very close to my heart. And the new films were complete garbage. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm not.
Yeah. Well, they don't have a common thread. I give it. This is slightly odd, but it's just popped into my head as a very different form in every way, shape, or form. But when Top Gear lot were fired and moved to Amazon, I was actually pleasantly surprised how well they recreated it. But of course, that's because they took the whole team. In here, there's not that team to keep the essence of the old, right? The Bond thing, the only central piece was that ownership in the middle. Right? Yes. Everybody else involved with Bond has changed over the years, from directors to producers to actors. Everything about it, of course, refreshes. So how do you keep that? Anyway, maybe we could be. I so hope we're wrong. I so hope they know. They're going to have all the money in the world. They could go.
News about it is that the IPs. There's not many IPs that I love. I'm not someone who likes lots of this popular stuff.
I just think this is the ultimate top trumps. He's now bought the actual ball.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Star Wars stuff. Like, I really actually enjoy the fact that I've got more Star Wars stuff happening. Just most of it's garbage. Anyway, okay. So my third knot this week is it's drunk dialing YouTube. Basically,
So what?
Okay, so there was a computer program that did loads of random selects of YouTube videos,
Right.
Random plays, as in drunk dialing YouTube.
Okay.
With no sort of
Like a lucky dip on
exactly.
Netflix do that actually, don't they? Feeling lucky. Yeah, you can press a feeling lucky and it will just choose.
Yeah, okay, but same concept. But basically they were looking to see how much actual engagement was actually happening on YouTube. Now, YouTube, as we have discussed, people are saying it is the largest media business in the world. Yeah, it's the
only thing I watch. So
yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, it's the only thing I watch.
Go to the bathroom anyway.
Yeah.
It's bigger than Netflix. That actually YouTube by itself is a powerhouse. But this drunk dialing sort of program has actually revealed the average number of views per video is approximately 5,868 with a median of just 35 views. 68% of the videos have 0 views and 93% have fewer than 1,000 views. Basically, what people are saying is that engagement on YouTube is not nearly as high as they would have thought with this computer program. Now, I just want to say this is obviously only one experiment gone through there, and I think actually the engagement rates on YouTube, they've been sort of slightly...
Okay, the problem with that, I would argue, is that there's a lot of stuff on YouTube, including stuff we put up that is gated deliberately or deliberately unlisted, or you're not using it as a place to promote, but as a functional use. Then there's a whole load of people who've just like YouTube. If you go way back, it was basically just a place to store some of your videos online. You weren't going to lose them, and yes, people could watch them, but it was like, oh, I put my family holiday video up there. So there's a lot of people putting content that wasn't even designed to be engaged with.
That is a fair point.
I'm not sure that's as telling as it would like to be. So I'm actually going to take the other side of this because the reason I think we're big on YouTube is that instead of having to commission shows speculatively, hoping to find what works, what the audience resonates with, thousands of interesting, clever, creative people spend their weekends and evenings trying to come up with concepts, putting them out into the world, and those that have something unique.
That point of view. I wouldn't disagree.
I suppose what that really says to you, because the percentages sound out, 93% have got no views. What that says to me is just the sheer volume of storage on YouTube, because the ones that are getting the views are still, we're talking about tens and tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of videos every week getting massive, massive views. So I think that's more a sign of how many people, like Granny just uploaded a holiday video, or we uploaded a thing that we didn't want someone to see because it was just testing this, or a link or a live stream. Yeah, there's lots of reasons I think people use YouTube outside of that bit that we talk about that could be skewing those. But hey, let's see.
All right, mate. Well, thank you very much for
listening. Thank you. That was fun.
Lots of love to everyone. And again, if you're in Denver or in Toronto,
come and see the business card.
Bye.